I just feel like I need to show you all that I am actually wearing a top today, okay? I'm not getting the goodies out for free. Although, if the YouTube career doesn't work out, I probably should also address the fact that my hair looks like a piece of burnt toast. But I am trying to lighten it for the wedding, okay? It's not really going to plan, and at this point, I will probably be carrying my hair in a bag down the aisle with me.
I'm gonna be a bald bride!
Hey there guys, my name's Megan if you're new here, and if not, welcome back for another spooky episode of Killer Weekend, where each week we'll discuss a true crime case and you guys can feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments box below. If you like all things true crime, supernatural, UFO, conspiracy theory, and all that good stuff in between, then please hit that subscribe button. I'll be here for you each week with our true crime killer weekends, and on and off every couple of Wednesdays with our weirdo Wednesdays, where we'll discuss something spooky I've heard. I will leave a small disclaimer at the beginning of this episode. It does involve details of violent crime. If that's a trigger point for you, then please feel free to turn away now. Hey my wee gremlins! Guess what? It's finally September! And you know what that means. The pumpkin spice is brewing, the brown leaves are falling, and all of the flies and wasps that have been terrorising me since May are dying. In other news, we've got really exciting stuff coming up, okay? We've got the wedding, which is only a year away now. And we've got the new podcast happening behind the scenes. So I'm actually going to put a poll up on YouTube so you guys can pick the podcast name. Since you've been here from the start, you might as well have a little say in that. But speaking of the wedding, I have been really hammering the gym recently. I've been trying to, exercise and be healthy and all that stuff so I can actually fit in my wedding dress that I bought 2 years ago. But I tell you, man, the gym is it's a difficult place to be, okay? Here I was, sweating, turning purple by the minute, and there's this little God, she looked gorgeous, okay? But there's this little beautiful blonde girl on the treadmill right next to me. She's got the blonde long ponytail. She's swishing it around like a newborn pony. And I literally cannot see one drop of sweat coming from her body. Does it get any easier? Will I eventually be like the Scottish Margot Robbie I saw last week? This week's episode is a highly, highly requested case. At least 3 of you have messaged me. I'm only kidding. Seriously, you guys have been in my DMs with this case. You've been tagging me on social media. And I have to admit, there wasn't a lot of information out there. So the information I've got in this week's episode, I have done a severe scuba dive in Jamaica, deep dive, just for you guys. I only hope I can do it justice because this man and his family really deserve some sort of resolution. Tonight, everyone, we will be discussing the shocking murder of Scott Ratigan, the man in the mask. The area of Ballston in Arlington County, Virginia is an up-and-coming urban neighbourhood favoured by young professionals, so it's a common sight to see people rushing to and from work on their daily commute. That's why on the 17th of January 2020, nobody bats an eyelid at a dark figure making his way through the busy streets. A white male between 5'6" and 5'8" in height, wearing all black clothing and a black backpack, is captured on local CCTV. He's also wearing a balaclava type face mask in order to hide his identity. Remember, this was months before COVID made headlines, so it would have been odd to see. But unlike many of the people moving through the city that day, our mystery man wasn't heading to work. No, he was running from a crime scene. That evening, 24-year-old Scott Ratigan's sister Colleen arrived at the Ava apartment complex in Ballston Square. The siblings shared an apartment in the East Tower and were extremely close. Colleen's friends had been visiting from out of town that day, so for most of her day she'd been out and about. She'd arrived back home at 5 p.m. with 3 of her friends, hoping to have a fun Friday night with them and her brother. But what they would discover in that apartment would change their lives forever. Scott was found deceased in his bedroom and the apartment stank of bleach. No official cause of death has ever been released publicly to the media. However, law enforcement have ruled this as a homicide, with the manner of death listed as trauma to the upper torso. Scott's tight-knit family were broken by the news, and the residents of the Ava apartment complex wondered if they had to fear for their own lives. Due to a lack of information in the media, there's been a lot of speculation publicly as to who Scott, nicknamed Scotty by friends and family, really was, and who would want to kill him. Tonight, guys, we're going to try and put all of those rumours to rest and focus on the facts of who Scott was. But more importantly, we're going to try and figure out who was his killer. Scott Wayne Ratigan was born on September 15th, 1995 in Fairfax, Virginia, to his parents, John and Linda. The only boy in 3 children, Scott was raised alongside his 2 sisters, Colleen and Stephanie. The beautiful family put down roots in Gainesville, Virginia, where Scott discovered a passion for sports. Everyone who knew him said he had the most hilarious laugh and he had the best sense of humour. Not only that, he had a love for all things mystical and was a self-professed pothead. Nope, no, it's not what you think. He was obsessed with Harry Potter, and pretty much like all 12-year-olds, when his acceptance letter from Hogwarts didn't arrive, he was downright devastated. It's easy to see from Scott's online footprint that he adored his family and vice versa. Some households' family dynamics can be complex and frayed, but not the Ratigans. They just enjoyed being around each other. Scott was just a small town boy with this wide smile and that famous Virginia charm. He enjoyed making other people smile too, with his wide range of crazy faces and funny high-pitched voices. In high school, Scott fit in well and soon had a core group of friends in which he took his place as the Joker. Later in life, he would refer to these boys as his brothers. He played lacrosse for the Battlefield High School team, and like most Southern boys, he enjoyed watching football on the weekends. But even though he was definitely one of the lads, he also had his sensitive side. Through every bad breakup or crap day at school, he would be there for both of his sisters to put a grin back on their faces. And it was his compassion for others that also drew in Scott's high school sweetheart, Taylor. But meeting your person at the age of 14 can also have its challenges, and even though they were head over heels in love with each other, sometimes life could pull them in different directions. After school finished, Scott went on to study business management at Radford University. He found a second home when he pledged the fraternity Sigma Chi. He was so loved and so well respected, in fact, that he soon became the vice president of the frat house. Shortly after graduation, Scott landed a career as an account executive for Kanika Minolta Business Solutions. This was his first proper big boy adult job, and his parents were extremely proud. Things were also looking up for Scott in the romance department. He and Taylor had reconnected and were talking about their plans for the future, and the two even had baby names picked out for when the time was right. On social media, it's easy to see why Scott was everyone's favourite person. He just seemed like the life and soul of the party. In each snapshot, he's positioned right there in the middle, which I'm sure in hindsight seems fitting to his family and friends whose worlds were completely shattered the day he was murdered. For those lucky few who were blessed enough to know Scott, life stands still, and as they get married, have children, settle down, he still remains frozen in the photographs, never aging past 24. But if anything, the life that Scott led leaves us with more questions than answers. So when you can't understand the why, it's time that you try to figure out the who. The footage on the screen right now, which features the person of interest in Scott's case, wasn't released by Arlington County PD until 1 year after his murder. Law enforcement have been extremely tight-lipped about Scott's case in general, but the public were infuriated that this footage had not been released earlier when memories were still fresh. And listen, I totally understand how frustrating it can be when it seems like an investigation is going nowhere, but there are reasons why certain things may have to be kept under wraps, and there also may be another explanation for the delay. A source who lived in the same apartment complex as Scott has come forward to say that the reason there was no camera footage from the building is because they simply weren't working. The Ava complex had recently been under renovation, and the cameras that were installed still had the plastic wrap on them. So it would be safe to assume that the CCTV clips we now have of the man in the mask were probably provided to law enforcement by local businesses, maybe even months after the fact. However, the cameras in Scott's apartment building weren't the only piece of machinery out of order that day. There was talks of fitting a key pass system in the elevators. However, this work was never completed. Each resident had their own key fob to gain access into the apartment building. So if someone had wanted to gain entry into Scott and Colleen's apartment, all they would have had to do is lay in wait until another resident went in with their key fob and then just sneak in casually behind them. Another source also stated that in the Ava building in question, there was a resident directory in the foyer with the names of everyone who lived there and the apartments they lived in. The person of interest in the CCTV footage is around 5'6", 5'8". So Scott was quite, a big guy. In order to have overpowered him, he would have probably had to catch Scott off guard. Please look at this image again, especially if you're from Virginia. He was wearing full black assassin gear and a mask in a pre-COVID time. Do you recognise him? I've seen a lot online that people are speculating whether this crime was drug related, but that has been completely ruled out by Scott's father in a 2021 interview. It was reported earlier on in the investigation that Scott was found bloodied and unresponsive, with the bulk of his injuries on his upper torso and his face. This would lend weight to the theory that this was a very personal attack fueled by anger. The suspect had clearly been planning this murder. If you take a closer look at the backpack, you will see an area has been covered by black duct tape. Was this perhaps a school badge or a sports logo, something that could tie the killer to the CCTV image? The large white bottle tucked into the bag's side pocket is most likely a bottle of bleach used to clean up the killer's DNA at the scene. This would also explain the note about a smell of bleach being in the apartment from first responders. The time of the attack is also suspicious. How did the killer know that on a Friday afternoon Scott would be home, or that his sister wouldn't be home? They either knew him well enough to know his schedule, or they stalked him for several days or weeks to learn his routine. It's important to mention at this point that Scott's immediate family and those who discovered his remains have been ruled out as suspects by the Arlington County PD. If we take it back to the CCTV video, we can see that this suspect has a very distinctive gait, which only worsens as he tries to run. This severity of in-toeing or pigeon toe would suggest a physical ailment or a prior injury. It's a condition in which the feet and knees point abnormally towards each other, making walking and running sometimes awkward and even painful. Some have argued on online forums that because in-toeing is more common within females, that maybe the person on the video was a woman. And I can kind of understand that. Another reason for the strange walk or run could also be someone trying to run in shoes that are much too large for them so that they could disguise their gender. But police have debunked this theory. They said they are looking strictly for a white male, and there must be a reason they've said that. Instead of sharing baseless theories online, the Ratigans are asking you to share the clip of the man in the mask in the hopes that he may finally be exposed. Could this be someone that you know? Someone who's constantly checking on the progress of this investigation? Maybe even just something tiny like a favourite backpack that was never seen again? Or a full bottle of bleach that just disappeared out of the kitchen cupboard. Even the smallest detail could be the difference between justice for Scotty and a cold case. Scott had no idea that this person was coming for him. He surrounded himself with people who loved and respected him. He was an amazing brother, son, and friend. He was the kind of guy who would look after his girlfriend when she was sick and who would send you the funniest memes just to cheer you up. He was a young man who could have had an incredible life, even some kids like he and Taylor talked about. But this person, this demon, stole that from him, and the Ratigans' lives will always be fractured until his killer is behind bars, and maybe only then can they move forward and celebrate the person that Scott was. If you know anything at all regarding this investigation, please think about his family and come forward. Think about his sister, who at her wedding will have an empty chair that was reserved for her big brother. Or maybe think about his little nephew, who will always miss his Uncle Scott at his birthday parties. This cannot go unsolved for another year. Please don't hesitate to get in touch with the Arlington County PD. I'll leave all the contact details in the link below. There is currently a $50,000 reward for any information that could lead to a conviction. If you would like to follow the progress of this investigation, then please follow the @Justice for Scott Ratigan Instagram page. I ask all of you on Scott's birthday, the 15th of September, to please share the video clip of the person of interest with the hashtag Justice for Scott Ratigan. It's time to finally lift the mask on this 2-year mystery. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up for me. It really helps this wee channel of mine. If you have any case requests, please feel free to send those in. I will be a lot more active on TikTok. I'm going to start doing TikTok true crime cases for those cases that we don't have a lot of info on. So if you'd like to follow me, not home, because illegal and everything, you can follow me on Instagram @MeganTrueCrime, on TikTok @Megan.truecrime, and then for all my ladies in the senior citizens party with me, we have Twitter @MeganTrueCrime. I love you all so much. Thank you for your support over the last year and a half. It will be 2 years. It will be our 2-year anniversary in October. So thank you for all the memories, and remember to lock your doors, don't talk to strangers, and also live every day as if it was your last. And let's do this one for Scotty. Never get used to that taste. See ya! Oh, that did not go down well.